Far to the north, in the lofty heights of the Cairngorms, lie the highest options for aquatic exploration in the UK. Several lochs dot these high mountain areas, their basins having been carved out by glaciers during the last ice age. For me, these frigid, clear waters are an irresistible draw for some adventure. And in this latest video in my Scottish freshwater snorkelling series, I'm bagging several in one multi-day trip.
My name's Feargus, and this is the middle of nowhere. Welcome to Britain's tundra landscape. A lot of ecologists class where I am currently walking in the same category, more or less, as the Arctic, because it is covered in deep snow in the winter, and in the summer it becomes quite barren, but there is some vegetation about, boggy in places, and too harsh overall for trees to grow. I am, in fact, although you can't see it because I am surrounded by cloud, about 1,200 meters up on the Cairngorm plateau. I am about a kilometer or so in that direction, away from the summit of Ben Macdui, second highest mountain in the UK, and highest point in the Cairngorms. Not heading there, I'm taking the path of least resistance to the first of several wet spots. Not here for the peaks, as regular viewers will know. I'm not looking to bag loads of peaks, I'm looking to bag some much wetter things. So it's not too far to go. I'm taking the path of least resistance by avoiding the ups and downs and just following a contour at the moment to get to a really magical spot high up in these mountains. Loch Etchachan. This is the largest loch above 900 meters in altitude in Scotland. It's quite a mission to get in here, and the cloud keeps coming and going, although it seems to have lifted enough now that I can actually see from one end of the loch to the other, because it is about 500 meters from one side to the other, so it's not small. And this is the first one of 4 that I'm going to be doing in this video. But while conditions are relatively benign like this, I'm going to get ready and I'm just going to go ahead and jump in the water because I want to take lots of pictures and I want to get some drop down footage from a deep portion of the loch. Hence, I've come up towards the end of the loch, which is below the cliffs, because that's where it tends to be deeper. And after I've done all that, then I'll have a proper chat about what's going on in this video. But in the meantime, enjoy the footage of this, one of the highest lochs or lakes in Britain. It's a mission to get all of this crap up here. Anyway.
Technology. On that particular dive, I prioritized taking photographs, mostly around the shallow area around the edge of the loch, around the shore, because that is what I am able to access with just a snorkel. Obviously, I can't dive down tens of meters. But I have devised a system which I am able to use to stick the GoPro in a housing, which can get it down below the 5 meter mark, which it's able to go to without a housing. It's the first time that I have tried using this at any depth, and it's failed miserably. So with all of these bits of string, it's a real faff to get everything untangled and into the right spot before dropping it down. And whereas the float works perfectly well in the shallows, I just had a quick look back on the footage, having dropped it down to maybe 15 or 20 meters depth, and clearly the float is not generating enough buoyancy once it gets down to the bottom, because the camera ended up going right down into the mud and the view got covered by the bag. But I have done it. It's actually my second time in Loch Etchachan. It was one of the first lochs which I decided to snorkel in before I was making any YouTube videos, because it's just quite well known. There's a trail going here. It's a long way to come. I stuck to the relatively shallow area next to the trail the last time, whereas this time I went for deeper and steeper bits. And the scenery, the underwater scenery, was certainly very, very intriguing, with lots of boulders up that way which are just draped in large quantities of slime, because you don't get any currents in these lochs, so these mats of algae are just able to grow and grow without getting disturbed or anything. I haven't seen any sign of any fish, just a handful of diving beetles pottering about. So the slime just doesn't have anything to stir it up, and it just drapes over like net curtains all over the boulders. But this is just the first destination for this trip. I'm going to be out for a few nights in my tent, doing a different loch every day. And this particular area, it has the largest concentration of lochs above 900 meters in Scotland. There are 4 more, 3 of which I am able to carry on and have a look at, and I will be snorkeling in each one day after another for the next few days. For the moment, I've had my lunch. Shortly I'm going to pack up and then hike up this way and get to the next one. Okay, just leave that to brew. It's a bit miserable actually. It's a bit chilly outside, and the cloud has come in again, and obviously when the wind drops the midges come along. It's a very different feeling place from the last time I was here, because I came up to the cliffs at the top above the loch in my Christmas video last December, when the place was completely engulfed in full-on winter conditions, hard ice and beautiful sunshine. It was an absolutely incredible day that I spent wandering around up around the plateau and above the loch.
And in fact, the loch was largely frozen over. That's more like it. Nice bright sunshine. The air temperature isn't so high, but the sunshine will warm me up again after I get out. Oh, right. Etchachan is well known. There's a trail going there. This place is really rarely visited. And this is going to be fun because few, if anybody, have ever seen the bottom of this loch. So let's go. Oh, it's very cold. Faced with a choice this afternoon. Two ways to get to my next destination. Either I could have ascended back up to Ben Macdui, or at least the ridge of Ben Macdui. This would have been the shorter route as the crow flies, and then taken a really steep descent down along the western side of that ridge before crossing the Lair Gru and heading back up the next ridge to reach my destination. The other way was a much longer route, heading down the glen below the loch where I was, around to the Devil's Point, which is ahead of me a little bit further on, and then back up north before heading up to the loch. I chose the latter because in terms of effort, it probably would have taken about the same despite the extra mileage, because there's a good trail, really good trail that I'm walking on now. And there's a much lower risk of hurting myself, spraining an ankle or breaking a leg, because it would have been a very steep descent, a long way down. So, still got a few miles to go. Yes, made it. Only 2.5 hours after I expected to. This was a hell of a challenge to get to, but what a spot. Absolutely beautiful. And look at that pointy peak up there. I think that might be Skur and Lochan Uaine, but I'm not sure. I'll check it out in the morning. Good pictures as well. Look at this. This'll do nicely. Right, it's late and I am really tired now, so I'll talk to you in the morning. Amazing. What an extraordinarily beautiful place. That is Skur and Lochan Uaine up above. The waters are very clear, covered in boulders, none of the small stones that were in the other two lochs along the bottom. And then just over here, hold on, I'll show you, because it's really impressive. So here, just below the lip, where the stream comes out of the loch and rolls over the side, is an absolutely terrifying drop. It rolls and rolls and rolls and then goes off a cliff. Not possible to come up directly along the stream from below. There's a little shelter down there, built of stones, where people kind of use it as a bothy or as an emergency shelter for climbers. You can see part of the cliffs over there, and beyond that is the summit of Ben Macdui, highest point in the Cairngorms and second highest in the country. It might be sunny, but up here with a cool breeze, I'm not feeling warm after that little dip. Anyway, every loch is different. This one, which I have taken to calling Lochan Uaine number 3, as opposed to yesterday, which I'm calling Lochan Uaine number 2, and Lochan Uaine number 1, which you saw in the last video, was the one which is much more accessible down not too far from Glenmore if you'd take the tourist trail to get up to it. This one has lots of little mossy things growing in groves not too far from the shore, as well as, of course, algae, slimy algae draped over the rocks in places like in Loch Etchachan, although not quite as photogenic. Whereas yesterday's Lochan Uaine, number 2, was a bit different. There, dotted all over the boulders, kind of attached to the algae, were little gelatinous balls. Not a lot swimming about.
Again, in here, I saw some diving beetles, but that's about it. I spent a fair amount of time on my way back to camp looking in nooks and crannies between the boulders and seeing if anything was crawling or swimming around, but I couldn't see anything apart from the occasional beetle. And it's not that surprising. Up here, these lochs are covered over on the surface with ice for a significant amount of time, and they get extremely cold. There's not a lot of nutrients in the water. They're very, very starved of nutrients. So there's not an awful lot to support life up here. Still, it's an exceptional place to snorkel. And I wouldn't be surprised if nobody has ever snorkeled in this particular loch before, because it's so inaccessible. I wanted to talk about a few things that I am planning over the winter now that autumn is slowly creeping in on us. The first is that, as those of you who regularly watch my videos know, I am a photographer and I show a lot of my work in my videos as I go about taking them. So I've started selling prints, fine art printed on very high quality archival paper, which will be available to buy on my website. There'll be a link in the description below this video to see the selection which I've put up for sale. They are from all over the Northern Highlands, with a particular emphasis on the Northwest Highlands, and cover landscapes in all weathers and all times of year. So have a look at that if you'd like to have a personally signed copy of my work, which you could then get framed and mounted and hang on your wall. On that same note, I am planning to produce a calendar featuring my photographs for 2026. So there'll be 12 of the photographs that I have been taking over the last few years, mostly during my videos, so regular watchers will be familiar with a lot of the places in it. And I'm in two minds whether to make a panoramic format one or as a more traditional format, 6x4. So I'm going to put examples of both in a post simultaneous to this video in the community tab. If you go to the community tab on my YouTube channel, you will find the post at the top of it where you'll see an example of a panoramic calendar page and a more traditional calendar page. And I'd like to know what you think. What do people prefer? And the other thing that I wanted to talk about now that we're coming into winter especially is public talks. I'm an experienced public speaker and I've been a university lecturer as well. I've spoken in places like the Natural History Museum in London. So if you are part of a club or a society or a school and you'd be interested in booking me for a public talk, then I'll put a link to that part of my website in the description below as well, and you can think about getting in touch. I'm prepared to talk about my Scottish expeditions, making these videos, snorkeling in freshwater and freshwater ecology, international expeditions, mental health and the outdoors, and anything else which might be relevant to the experience that I have. This is a place I have wanted to camp for some time. If you wanted to go anywhere in Britain without having to leave the island, which is more similar to the Arctic tundra in 2,000 kilometers to the north, then this would be the closest kind of comparison.
This is the Bray Riach Plateau, and unlike anywhere else in the Cairngorms that I've been to anyway, here we've got over a square kilometre of relatively flat rolling area, and only the cliffs that you can glimpse at the edges give away the fact that this is more than 1,200 metres above sea level. It's a great place to camp. There's some really good tent pitches. There are streams trickling around, and it's just really bizarre, to be perfectly honest. If someone put you to sleep and then stuck you here and you woke up in the morning and looked around, you just think, okay, I'm on a rolling plain. Hey, reindeer. Hey, Hey. How are you doing? Well, it seems I have come across the small herd of tame and relatively domestic reindeer, which is looked after in the winter down below around Glenmore, but in the summer is left to forage up here on the plateau. Again, making you think of the Arctic, and they are indeed very tame. Okay, this is the highest body of water in the UK, at least that's big enough to have a decent swim or snorkel in. I have made it to number 4. It's just below 1,000 meters in altitude. For those of you watching south of the border, the surface of the loch is higher than anywhere in England. So, what lives in this place? We will find out. Or maybe we'll just see more rocks and slime. But time will tell. I am dropping the GoPro into the depths again. This time, I remembered that I have this plastic jar thing, so if it can stand up to the pressure, it should make a better float to keep the GoPro upright and looking in the right direction. So let's get into the water and see what's here. First thing I'm going to do is drop off the GoPro, which means going out over the lip and into the middle, or roughly the middle of the loch. Yeah. So that was the highest loch in Scotland. Oh, it was deeper than I expected, and of course this string got tangled up again. So the first spot, which I tried to get the GoPro down onto the bottom of, was too deep. I couldn't quite get it all the way down, so I moved it to a spot that was a little bit shallower. I don't know if the bottom was visible from the first time or not. I will put it up on the screen now if it was. What an amazing spot. Waters in here are really clear. More slime, very picturesque slime. All in all, I think things worked out pretty well. Right, so that's it from me here at altitude. I'm gonna head back down now. Don't forget, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber already. Share the channel, and all the stuff that I said yesterday, like the calendar, prints, talks, and so forth. If those are interesting, look those up. In the meantime, I'll see you very soon.